Hello and welcome everyone into another video. Today's video, we're back with top teams content in the Open Ultra League. This is the second week of the season, and this week we have Ultra League, and I think the other one is going to be Spring Cup. I still haven't made a video about it, but I am working on it, hopefully. So, what is Ultra League this season? Well, if you take a look at PvP, it's kind of still the same, but we see that Jellicent is way up there. Same as Moltres. I think Moltres used to be in the top 5. Now it's number 1. Empoleon is making like a comeback. Swampert is going to be there, by the way. Swampert is now a huge Pokemon. Malamar is going to be a beast, so expect to see lots of Malamars. I think people are enjoying Malamar right now in the Great League, saying that it is one of the best Pokemons in the Open Ultra League. And whatever is good in Ultra League, Malamar is one of the best Pokemons in the Great League, and whatever is good in Great League is even better in the Ultra League. So imagine that Pokemon having some extra bulk. So that's like, what do you think? So, if you take a look at this list, is there any Pokemon that is worth mentioning? Alolan Ninetale. Alolan Ninetale now is very solid in Great League and in Ultra League. And also, Feraligatr is still as decent. Cobalion, I expect Cobalion to have more play than the previous seasons, because now it kind of like the Mud Slappers are like less relevant. And I mean, Mudshot users are back, but I mean, Mudshot users don't do that much ground damage. Their damage comes from the other move. Like in the case of Swampert, it comes from Hydro Cannon, right? Alolan Sandslash is kind of a spicy pick, but I don't think it's as good as it used to be. This guy, what's his face? Still decent. I wouldn't say that he is meta. I would say it like kind of anti-meta type of thing. Bellibold is still a Bellibold, still a tanky Pokemon, but I think it's slightly less, it's going to be less relevant in the Open Ultra League meta. I've seen people also using Drapion and expecting Drapion to be better, but Drapion's just a Drapion, you know, it's like a spammy Pokemon. And that is very safe and can be used everywhere. The Pokemon that I want to talk about also is Florges. Florges is very, very decent. If you don't know what to do, I would always recommend you try Corviknight with Florges together in one team, because that's pretty much like the Ultra League meta. If you don't know what to do, just gonna use Florges with Corviknight and probably a Licky or like a third of choice that you choose and just decide to go with. Anything else that's worth mentioning? I think Talonflame is pretty decent because it has a great play into the top 2, which is Moltres and Corviknight. Against Lapras is kind of annoying because you need to have 2 turns ahead, so you can just like, you know, get some start like ramping up your damage as fast as possible. Some Pokemons that are worth mentioning as well, I would say Steelix is out of the meta. Venusaur is going to be back, so expect to see lots of Venusaur, especially with Florges being everywhere, Swampert making a comeback. Venusaur destroys both of those 2 Pokemons. G-Weezing, I think G-Weezing is still decent. It's just like whether it's gonna see a gameplay or not, it's gonna depend on what people will be using, right? So now we talked about the Pokemons, let's just talk about the best teams, or what I expect to be some solid teams that you could just, you know, yoink from this video and use them. So I expect Moltres, as PvP says above, it's number 1. What pairs well with Moltres? There are 2 Pokemons that I would say, and number 1 is Florges and number 2 is Cobalion. What does Cobalion do? Cobalion benefits a lot from the Steel typing, and as a third, I actually was like, I just wanted to say you could have a Jellicent here or another Steel type, or you could even have a Swampert. Like a Swampert would be very decent. PvP is saying that Moltres is gonna make a great core with Florges and Nidoqueen as a third. But the thing about Nidoqueen, I could swear like you always need whatever move you don't have. If you have Earth Power, you're gonna need Stone Edge. So just for that, I just recommend having Poison Fang and Earth Power. If you need Stone Edge, well, you do need Stone Edge for Corviknight, so that's why you have to have a hard Corviknight answer and kind of something to bait out the Corviknight, which is the Florges. The second Pokemon on PvP, which is Corviknight. What do I recommend with Corviknight? Well, you have to have something that beat Bellibolt. So I know this is kind of ABA week to Bellibolt, and it's for a reason, because last season most of the Bellibolts I saw were like in the back, so you have to have save like your Giratina or your Ghost type or like your Fighter for the Bellibolt. I know it's ABA, so this is kind of risky to use, but remember that those Tentacle is decent enough and always has a play. The third Pokemon PvP is Lapras, and what I recommend with Lapras is Gorgeist. Gorgeist is very decent, and it's gonna be like actually a great Pokemon to use, because remember, now you actually destroy the Corviknight as a grass type. Grass type gets destroyed by steel and flyers. Well, with Gorgeist you have Incinerate, right? I think the second move is either Shadow Ball or Foul Play. I'm not sure which one is that. But if you use Lapras, I also think that Regidrago is a great Pokemon to pair with Lapras. I tried this core myself last season and it was phenomenal. I freaking loved it, because you have like a hard-hitting Pokemon here and you have a decent bulk. The third is literally could be anything. So why Gorgeist here? I think just because like some people might be running Billy Bold and then you have two hard answers here. Weezing is good against Billy Bolt as long as they run Sucker Punch. If they run Sucker Punch, you actually do need this team kind of better. But if they run the Thunder Shock, this is gonna be like the team you want to be using. Moving into the next Pokemon on PvP, which is Lapras. What do I recommend Lapras with? I like Jellicent. I like Jellicent with fighters a lot. And that's simply because like the only weaknesses that Jelly have is literally Dark type, right? And fighters, you know, like you do need a third, because Jellicent is only weak to Dark, and you just need 2 hard counters to Dark, and then you will have a great coverage, because Jellicent only feeds the Dark type. Now you might also anticipate that Jellicent is technically can get a fat hit by a big hit by Payback from Corviknight, and yes, you have a point, but I guess you could just use Alolan Ninetale as a safe option, where like you can just spam Wither Balls with Icy what? Wither Ball with Powdered Snow. I was like Icy Wind. I was like Icy Wind is a charge move. The next Pokemon PvP is Florges, and what I recommend with the Florges is like 2 Pokemons specifically, either Empoleon or you go the Moltres route. Which one of those is up to you, but you have to be aware that if you run those 2, you're kind of gonna struggle into Corviknight, so you need to make sure that you beat that third. Like you could have like a Billy Bolt here, and that will give you like a great play into it. But overall, I think because it's early in the season, and if you want to have fun, I would just run Moltres with Florges and Regidrago. This is what I would test out myself. And speaking of Empoleon, like I've been suggesting lots of teams about Empoleon. Don't use the Shadow. This is just a bait for people who don't watch the video, just like those people who just skip through. So Empoleon, you know, lose to fighters and electric, right? So you need something that destroys those, and Como-O is actually the only Pokemon that covers all of Empoleon's weaknesses, as far as I'm aware. It's pretty decent, and it hits very hard with the Community Day move. And something to mention here, like Articuno now has Powdered Snow, so you don't have to struggle with the stupid Ice Shard animation. It's technically the same, it does say the same, but it's like more flexible with a 2-turn fast move. You do have to run Icy Wind and Hurricane though. Sadly, it doesn't have a cheaper move. Maybe they give it a cheaper move next season, who knows. Or like if you don't want Articuno, you can just do like a Galarian Moltres. As far as Annihilate, remember that it's a ghost, so you need a dark counter. That could be anything. Like it could be it's a ghost, need a dark. Dude, what am I yapping? It needs a ghost coverage because it's so weak to the opposing ghost. So that's why you run the Sucker Punch, Billy Bolt, or you could just have a Licky. And trust me, Licky is one of the best investments you could have in the open already. It's so freaking good of a Pokemon, and I actually use it for coaching. Whenever I'm coaching people, like I just like to have it as a sponge, where like it can soak all the damage from the opponents. Just so freaking good. Last season they buffed Shadow Ball, like it's now cheaper, so that made Licky even much better. Also, you could with this you could do Talonflame to have a coverage into the fairies. But the fairy now, something like Florges has a water type move, so be aware of that. As far as Togekiss, it's still decent. I think Togekiss makes a great core with Venusaur, but it's still annoying into what's his face. into Corviknight. But remember that Corviknight technically has a ground move into Clefable, which does like double resisted damage. So it's not that big of a deal. I'm still a big fan of Blastoise, but I think Blastoise is kind of like underwhelming version of Lickilicky. Lickilicky is just a straight bulkier and better in the season, especially because it has Shadow Ball. So yeah, but I just wanted to have a Blastoise in one of my teams. You guys know how much I love the Blastoise. So yeah, thanks so much everyone for watching. I try to keep it short and fast and straight to the point. I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to leave a like to the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.